Okay, so today is a video dedicated to some ladies that inspire me. Some of them fictional, some of them not. So basically I'm recommending books with main characters that they have affected me. They have inspired me. Let's go. Okay, I'm gonna start with Lizzie Bennet and Fanny. I can't remember her last name. Okay, two Jane Austen ladies. They inspire me for really different reasons. Lizzie is fierce and strong, incredibly loyal, flawed, and very, very willing to grow. There's a lot that's amazing about Lizzie. I'll link my review for Pride and Prejudice that I did like a year ago. Maybe the last time I reread this book. I'm actually not sure. I may have reread it again in between then and now. But not only is Lizzie very powerful, she's just a really strong force to be reckoned with, but she also, there's a lot of bravery that is kind of lost in time. There's a lot of societal things and expectations upon her. In her family situation, she needs to get married off to a specific type of person. Otherwise, it could potentially not just make her future a little bit less comfortable, but it could potentially harm the entire family. And there are decisions that she makes throughout this book that are really incredibly strong on a level that I think we oftentimes miss today because the societal the societal situations are so different now that we don't see the impact of the decisions she's making. And you could argue that they're selfish, you could argue that they're brave. I land on brave. I love that she fights for what she believes in, regardless of what that means for her future. And I also love her ability to grow. She is not just very strong, but she's flawed. And when she sees those flaws and she sees her mistakes, she is willing to humble herself and she's willing to change and learn and do better by herself as well as by the people around her. She's very loyal to her family. She sacrifices a lot for them. I don't know, there's a lot to love about Lizzie. I don't need to convince you. A lot of people love her, but she's pretty incredible. And then we have Fanny, who is on the opposite side of the spectrum. She's from Mansfield Park. I know it's kind of hard to see the titles with these copies. This is my white book set over there. Mansfield Park is, I think, Jane Austen's least popular book. Actually, after my Goodreads video, it might be, Goodreads isn't coming out yet. Sorry, just kidding. You don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Mansfield Park is one of her least popular books. And I agree because it is, I don't know, I really loved it. I understand, but I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I love Fanny. So Fanny is a much more meek and quiet character, and she doesn't get the same level of love as Lizzie or as Emma or any of her really strong, outspoken women, which I understand because these women were fighting against their time. And Fanny, her strength is much more subtle and quiet. And I don't really relate to Fanny. I don't see myself in her at all. But I do see some of my very close friends in her. I do see a lot of people that I care about deeply in her. And I see how hard she has to work to make her voice heard when she's expected to be quiet because that's her personality. She's not the type to insert herself into conversations and to speak loudly and boldly. She's the type she wants to be a more supporting role, but she has to stand up to people, and she finds a way to do it that's right for her. And while her strength is very different from Lizzie's, I think that it's just as strong, and I loved seeing her on display, this type of personality on display. I loved following this type of heroine because we don't do that very often in literature, and I loved seeing her strength and her fight, and it looked different, but it was great. Next we have Misaki from The Sword of Kaigen. Again, review, link it. This is a self-pub fantasy, and we follow two main characters, a mom and her son. The one that I latched onto the most, the one that I found so inspiring, was Misaki. And there are a few reasons why I found her so inspiring. She worked hard to do what she thought was right and to do what she felt she needed to do for the sake of her family, for the sake of her culture, for the sake of the people that she was trying to serve. And despite incredibly difficult situations, she continued to try to do what was right, even if other people weren't doing right by her. And then when everything changed, when the world crumbled around her, she rose up as such a strong leader, but not in two ways. Oh gosh, how do I do it spoiler free? She rose up as a moral strength, as an emotional strength to the people around her, as well as a physical strength. Not only that, but her best friend in this book was so strong as well and deserves to be on this list as well. I mean, I'm only talking about books where like it's a main character that we're focusing on and not side characters, but her best friend deserves to be on this list too. And the fact that she also takes support and takes care from the people around her, and our main character and her best friend are just two incredible women that I would love to know in my life. They serve completely different roles in the story that plays out, but they strengthen each other and build each other up so much, and I love their friendship. Next, I'm gonna dip into some YA books that have connected with teenage Murphy. I didn't read any of these as a teenager, but they all connected with that part of me, I guess. On the Fence is a YA contemporary romance. It's about a girl whose mom has passed away and now she's in a house full of boys. She has her dad who's raising her, her big brothers who look out for her, and her neighbor who is part of the family. She's always been into sports. She's been super rough and tumble, no makeup, no nice clothes, etc. Then she gets a job and she has to dress up for this job. She makes girlfriends and she realizes that this side of her appeals to her too. But she feels a little bit torn and a little bit like she's lying to herself and to the people that she cares about, because this is a new side of her that doesn't seem to fit and yet seems just right. I loved this book because I'm huge on big family, very close relationships in books, which this satisfied. It has a romance trope that I happen to really like, but the most is because I connected to this main character so much. I connected to her love and loyalty to her people, the people that mean the most to her. I connected to her internal struggle because I grew up very rough and tumble, athletic, trying to be one of the guys. But when I got older and started developing really strong relationships with other women, it did create kind of an identity crisis in me, much like it did her. And while I got through it and moved on before I got to this book, I just really connected with her struggle because it was the same kind of struggle that I went through. And I really appreciated her and this book for working through it and for coming out on the other side in a really healthy, balanced place. This one is going to be a little bit harder for me to describe. I still don't know how to pronounce this protagonist's name. I think it's Leah or something like that. But I'm gonna be really brief about this one because this is the final book in the Remnant Chronicles, and spoilers, but this protagonist was someone that I liked. She was interesting. I was cool with following her. It was the final book that she really impressed me because she had a loyalty to her duty that caused her to make certain sacrifices that blew me away. And I guess that's all I can say, but I really, really appreciated her for that. And finally, we're going to talk about Spencer from Skyward, who, like I said in my review for Skyward, links will still be provided. If you want to know what teenage Murphy looked like when I was dealing with my own trauma and my own pain, and if you want to know what I looked like as not 17, she's 17 in this book. I was probably like 14, 15. I looked like her. I was the exact same as Spensa. I've never connected with a character like I've connected with Spensa, because the way I dealt with my trauma and my pain was exactly the same as hers, by putting up walls, by trying to look tough, by trying to look gruff, by shutting people out, while also craving that relationship so much. And while I didn't connect with Spensa on that same level in book 2, I've still really enjoyed watching her grow, and she's been a character that I have really loved following. Next we have Mrs. Darling, which now we're going to talk about adult Murphy. Why do I keep doing this? Why am I categorizing myself this way? Mrs. Darling, I've talked about in another video. I think it was a favorite characters video. She showed up there. So here we are again. I love this book. I love Peter Pan for a lot of reasons. One of the big reasons is because of Mrs. Darling. I will link my Peter Pan review somewhere. At this point, I'm not sure I have any more cards, so it might just be in the description, but I do talk about Mrs. Darling at length. I guess I would kind of get into spoiler territory in order to really dive into what she means to me, but I'll just say I connect with her as a mom on a level that I don't think I ever expected to connect with a character. Her love for her children, as well as her... it's spoilery. I guess I'll just say I connect with her as a mom, and I connect with her on the level of, I connect with her as an adoptive mom as well. If you want to hear more and you don't mind spoilers, please just go watch the Peter Pan review, because I dive into it all there, but I don't want to dive into spoilers here. She means a lot to my mom heart. Next we have Legendborn, which is another YA book, and I'm going to keep this one really brief as well, because it'll be hard to discuss through spoilers, but Bree is just an incredibly strong character. And again, she's not really your standard, pick up a sword, cut down everybody in your way kind of female protagonist that we see often. A lot of her struggles are internal, and a lot of what she has to fight against and face against are social things and mental things. And I found her so inspiring in the way she perceived the world, in the way she fought back against things, and in the way that she got through the conflicts and the ways that people tried to push her down. I also found her arc, the way this book ended, really great. I really loved where Bree ended up. And last for the fiction category is The Sleeper and the Spindle. I love this book so much, and a lot of people read it after I hyped it so hard and didn't love it too. So, fair game. It's fine. But I found it so inspiring for basically opposite reasons of why I found this one inspiring. I think that both are really inspiring in their own ways. Her intense loyalty to her kingdom and the sacrifices that she makes for that are really incredible to me. And the protagonist for this one, which I believe is unnamed, I don't know. Anyway, she's Snow White. The basic setup is we're following Snow White, or an alternate Snow White, where she learned that Aurora, Sleeping Beauty, that her entire kingdom has been put under a sleeping spell, and they need to go find a hero to go save them. And Sleeping Beauty said, I mean, not Sleeping Beauty, Snow White says, yeah, I'll go. And she goes. And I love her for essentially the opposite reason that I love Laya. I love her for the decisions she makes for herself. I love her for not going with what was expected of her and not doing what was expected of her, and just not even bravely, not surface level bravely, not in a really pompous or hyped way. I don't know how to say this. Like, you don't look at her and she's not saying, I'll save the day. It's kind of just like, yeah, I'll do it. And everything she faces, it's just like, sure, I'm here. I'm the one that's going to handle this. And it's just such a simple decision for her. And then in the end, it was the direction that she ends up going is also a very simple decision for her. And it's a decision for herself. And I love that for her. Now we're going to get into nonfiction, real women that have really inspired me. The Beauty in Breaking by Michelle Harper is a nonfiction, it's a memoir about a woman who is a doctor, and it talks about, oh man, it was really hard to read. But it talks about her medical training and in her practice, some of the terrible things that she has to see and the terrible things that a lot of doctors will go through. She talks about the instances of sexual assault and racism and physical assault that a lot of doctors but end up putting up with, because it comes with the job a lot of the time, as well as the things that they have to see when they're treating patients that are a lot harder to treat. There are some instances where she's treating children that are really difficult for me to read, but it was such an inspiring book, and one that reminded me yet again that medical field, I respect people in the medical field so much, and that I don't have the guts. I don't have what it takes to be this type of strong. Next we have The Girl with Seven Names, which is about a woman who escaped from North Korea, and then her journey in the different areas that she landed to find refuge. It took her years and years and years of changing her name, changing her identity, hiding, running from people who would try to bring her back to North Korea. And I found it so inspiring what this woman's fight, what she had to go through in order to get her freedom, and then what she went through on top of that for her family. I really appreciated reading her story. Again, there are some things in here that are so hard to read, but I appreciated reading them so much. And last, we have She Came to Slay, which is a memoir for Harriet Tubman, and I loved it so much. I've said this before, but Harriet Tubman was always my favorite historical figure to study in school. Anytime we had the opportunity to choose who we were going to study and do reports on, I would always come back to her. Her life is so full of incredible and inspiring things. We know about the Underground Railroad, but there's so many things that she did apart from that, which, don't get me wrong, I don't want to minimize that, but there are so many things that we can take time to dig into and be amazed by with her. This book has a lot of illustrations. I guess I'll have Corey take pictures and show you. This book has a lot of illustrations. We can actually follow her on the Underground Railroad with one of the illustrations. We have pictures of her, and we do focus on the Underground Railroad as well as several of her other accomplishments, as well as some of the accomplishments within, some of the things that she internally put up with, struggled with, overcame, as well as all these external things. And she is just one of the most inspiring people that I've ever read about. So there you go. That is a list of women in literature, whether fictional or not, that have really, really inspired me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love to continue chatting with you in the comments. Have you read any of these books? Do you plan to read any? And what are some of the women in books that have really inspired you? I post videos every Tuesday through Friday. I'll see you again soon.